One. Greetings and welcome to another installment of Learning Ghanongga here at Lango. I'm Peter.
I'm Tyler.
And we're going to continue on with Ghanongga, picking up right where we left off in the previous installment. All right, so it looks like Jolandi is not analyzed, but indeed the D part is. We just don't know for sure what Jola means. We have some guesses, but in any case, we've already entered from last time the translation for 10.3. They went with the nets to the mouth of the Koryovuku, netting for dolphins, they tell us. So Vangara is net. We figured that out from the previous one. Koryovuku is Koryovuku, so that would be the easiest one to add. It is a proper noun. It is the name of a river, I gather. And I guess maybe dolphins are hanging out around there. And I know that dolphins are a bit more protected these days. But historically, they have been, at least sometimes, a source of food for people in Solomon's. And you got to understand, if you're watching this, that if someone in the Solomon Islands, especially 100 years ago, were to eat a shark or a dolphin or a sea turtle or something for the sake of food, they are not the source of the current endangerment. And they could sustainably do that forever. It's other things in the world that cause endangerment. So no reason to get upset about this story. We've got tovu tovu here. We need a word for dolphin. And
Yes.
I'm guessing it's tovu tuvu, not mujuna.
That would be in the wrong part of the sentence. Yeah, I agree.
What do you think about mujuna?
Munjuna is going to be the mouth, the river mouth. It's marked, inherently possessed.
And muju is mouth, I would bet.
So the preposition pa here seems not so much locative as possessive.
The mouth at Koryovuku.
Okay. Not a contrast, really. Let's call it river mouth, I guess.
Yeah, it is hard to know. Is that something that's going to be... So like when we saw cliffs, it was Stonehead. Right? So I suspect river mouth will really be river mouth.
Single word.
You know, this kind of like convergence by analogy or convergence of analogies or whatever. Bluss talks about it in the historical linguistics puzzle book, which Tyler and I both have a copy of.
Thanks to you.
And he points out that like he gives a bunch of examples. Like one of them is the eye of the day, meaning sun, happens in a bunch of different languages. He talks about like the eye of a net being used in a bunch of like the holes of a net to be called eyes. So there are these metaphorical things that tend to happen a lot in other languages. In any case, we're going to look for nguju. I'm going to need to get the character gu right quick. So I'm going to bounce over here and copy it. That's how I did it because Tyler already found it. Although there are several ways to find characters.
Maybe, yeah. Next time we're inputting a text, we could maybe go over that a bit for people. If your language that you're working on uses characters beyond the QWERTY keyboard, there's lots of good resources out there.
Yeah. One way to do it is to Google
Engma
characters. If you know binary features of the sound you want to get the symbol of. So for example, if I know voiced velar fricative, which we have here, although we're representing it with G, we could represent it with the gamma symbol. But say you don't remember what the symbol's called, you just know what the sound is in binary features, you can search for it, and Wikipedia will give you a great it'll give you the number, so you can actually look up the number of the character in your Word doc or something, but you could also just copy and paste it right from Wikipedia, which will give you a great example.
So what'd your search? I missed it. What did your search yield just now?
One single entry. This is the only entry. I'm going to go ahead and call it mouth, but I don't know. I don't want to call it mouth of river yet, but I'm going to call it mouth here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold control. And I'm actually going to click on Nguju. It's going to take us to the Nguju entry. And I'm going to say mouth as mouth of river.
Super.
Actually, I'm going to put that in the notes section, not the definition, because this is the only example we have it. And later we might want to put this in the definition, but then I won't be, if I forget about it, my definition won't later say mouth of river. We know this is one use of it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we might not see a lot about it. Now, we haven't seen a lot of body part terms in our stories. Or that's not correct. We've seen a lot of the crab body part terms were discussed in detail. And we do see other things. We haven't seen a lot of eyes, nose, face. Have you noticed that?
I had not thought of it. No.
Well, it's maybe we feel like it's not something that's going to come up, but I believe there are also certain prohibitions on talking about other people's parts of certain faces and stuff. And I don't remember exactly, but I was told one time, like, oh, a sister in Roviana can't talk about the brother's mouth or nose or something like this is considered very unacceptable and it can't be done. And so they have a bunch of euphemisms. Like I can't say teeth, so I would say stones or something like this. And I don't remember it exactly. It's in my field notes from 2016, so I can go. I'll look it up on paper and see what it says. But we need to keep our eyes peeled for, we're avoiding certain words. Why might that be?
Okay, interesting.
No, we have Zane there. And I don't know what Zane means. I suspect the za there is some sort of third singular thing. Zane could be river.
Could be.
Don't know. We're gonna have to leave Zane for now. I'll search here, but I think we only get it once. Yeah, we only get it once.
Bane.
So take us to where we get it once. Yes. Yeah, so there's where we are. We're gonna go ahead and translate the next sentence. Azai Zai, which shows us that Zai is not a version of Azai.
Do you want to input the dolphin word also?
Yes, I think Tovu Tovu is dolphin, don't you?
Seems pretty likely.
And notice I'm not bringing him to Tovu, right? I am assuming in this case, I guess Tyler and I are, unless he objects, that Tovu Tovu, even though it clearly is reduplicated, is in fact its own word. We might find out that Tovu means something else on its own, but
I don't want too much. Yes.
But there are also in English we have this kind of lost positives. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tyler?
So sure do.
So a lost positive is like, what were we gonna say?
I think of the word hap, the non-word hap, as in happy, hapless, happen, and so on.
Well, I was thinking of like, for example, chalant. Something can be nonchalant, but it can't be chalant. So you only have the negative versions. You don't have positive versions of these words anymore.
Gotcha.
We can think about like the lost singletons, meaning there are, at least in Roviana, there's some words that only occur reduplicated. For example, the word for morning, munu munu, pronounced moon munu. I've asked, and I can't find any meaning for munu by itself. That doesn't mean there never was one, or even that people don't know. You might say, oh, I asked somebody and they said they don't know, but then I heard them use that word in a sentence. That is not the person being dishonest. I mean, maybe, but probably it's not the person being dishonest. Probably it's what happens is people are surprisingly not metalinguistically aware of what they're doing. I am speaking from personal experience of being shocked that I don't know being asked about English. How does this work? I don't know. And I have a PhD in linguistics and I waste all my time all day thinking about language. So if I don't even know stuff about my own first language when asked, and it's things I've even thought about and I'm not aware, forget it. A lot of people are not totally aware of what they're talking about. And it's not to be bad. It's because they're masters of using their language.
We master our language so much that we're not even conscious of everything. We couldn't be. That would be such a huge burden on our conscious minds.
It'd be like most people don't know actually how they walk. Like if they had to
Right.
describe each single step of it, but they walk so well all the time. Not everybody understand, but
Tell me which muscles you're flexing at any instant. Yeah.
yeah, we don't even literally. This is a very good example. People generally don't even know how their muscles work. They don't know like what muscles they fire to do fingers and stuff. It just does it.
Mhm.
So being a linguist is like learning each individual muscle in the forearm that controls every tiny movement in the finger, except you're controlling the. Well, it could. Ooh, I never thought about this. I always think about physiology of phonology being centered on the vocal tract, but they have phonology in sign languages too. And I wonder if there's any physiologically motivated sound changes. So some sound of sign languages, so I guess I should say sign changes, but in in spoken languages, there are some sound changes that appear to be physiologically motivated, like this is the way the body works. I wonder what it is with sign language. In any case, we should move on to our next sentence here. I see we have kaja and kajandi. I would have guessed the D was plural anyways in this sentence.
Oh, so they went out and put down the net, then found the weights were lying there ashore and not brought. So they weighed the net by tying it around their legs. Been several weeks since I read through the story. Wonderful stuff. So again, the broader context is this is the tribe that does everything wrong. And each little episode is something that they do that I don't know, the story is communicating are things you shouldn't do. They're silly. They're going to harm you if you do them.
I believe it's sort of a cautionary tale.
Yeah. I think these
But
these would get big laughs if you were telling this story.
yes, but I think it would be funny because I think that you don't really need to build a mythological tale to tell people they can't catch a falling tree. And when you're trying to throw nets in the ocean, don't tie the weights around your legs. Like maybe we'll float down like a leaf. But I also think that there is a history in the world, in every place that you go, there's a huge history of cult beliefs forming. And cult beliefs often end in things like self-destructive practices done ritually. I don't want to say certain words that might get us flagged for content because we're trying to talk about languages. But maybe it is really a cautionary tale about getting wrapped up in the fervor, presented in a funny way. I believe I know what Nenandi is, and I have a guess on Kajandi. What about Vonga?
So embark they, so they put down.
Now, this Nge, we've only ever seen it to mark subjects. Have you noticed that? But it doesn't mark every subject. So there is some aspect to using this that we haven't figured out yet. Vonga, I'm suggesting then, is a verb.
But if they're putting down the net, that's a transitive one, and you'd expect an ia suffix on there.
It's puzzling to me.
So that the net was down. So that could be intransitive, and the ko there would support that. In order that, but then the nge kind of works against that. Puzzling.
Well, it could be. At some point, we're going to have to see when we really see the object agreement a lot, and if we get object agreement and subject agreement in the same verbs. I think sometimes we do, but not always. And I wonder if there's a class of when it's happening.
Here's another possibility. Go ahead and finish your thought, though. Let me not interrupt.
No, please go. That was it.
So that marking that we would expect would be an ia suffix, and we've seen that you can. Obviously, that's going to involve the meeting of vowels at that boundary. So we had one where the verb stem ended in u, and instead of uia, the e there got dropped. We had an ua.
Yes.
If we have verb roots that end in a, instead of the expected aia, which I don't think occurs in our, we have one hit for aya. What I'm thinking is the e here would get truncated. So underlyingly, it would be vongaia.
Yeah.
Lose the e from that, and then the two a's coalesce. So this could potentially actually have the suffix, just that you can't perceive it.
I predict almost precisely the opposite. That one place where the three vowel sequence will be allowed is if it would result in two ahs touching.
That would make sense.
Aya, Again, spoiler, in Roviana, that's the way it works. The ia does not delete after taka, as in kick. It's takaiya.
Yeah.
And since that was a verb I used a lot because it's very transitive,
Got a kick out of it.
please see we have Eat, Kick, Bite. I believe that's the name of our Lango blog on transitivity. There's a reason if you're asking, you might ask for highly transitive verbs. Look into it. We have a blog post about it. Vonga, I suspect, does have something to do with dropping nets. But why it doesn't get object agreement is not clear.
What we can do is just put drop net in the word gloss, but not create a lexicon entry till we feel more solid about it.
Let's see if there's Vonga anywhere else. No, a bunch of singleton examples of these words.
However, our collection is going to be growing soon.
Yes.
Loaded the third text, and as soon as I get around to it.
And there's another book. So the book we have is actually more stories in Ghanongga. Although I believe it was published first or something, but the original stories in Ghanongga book is also, I couldn't find it when I was in Honiara. That's where I bought my copy of the book. I went to Solomon Islands and they have a nice museum, and the museum gift shop sells some books and carvings and things like that. And of course I bought not every book they sold, but I bought what I could afford, and as many of them as I could. I bought the Solomon Islands published books. Now Vonga, yeah.
Real quick, how many stories are in that one volume that we're working on?
Let me check right quick.
I got it there.
So here's the storybook. Having a look. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Story 10 is Kezoko, which I'm extremely looking forward to. Story 9 is called Butu Butu Pavitu. What do you think that means, Tyler?
The Vitu tribe, or the tribe at Vitu or something.
Yes,
possessive there.
Yes, the tribe at Vitu, perhaps. And it's interesting because the Vitu guy is here helping remember he married into the guy with the white-haired axe or whatever, the white-haired shield.
Okay, he recurs.
Guy who married into so
yeah.
I wonder if this is also an ancient story. All right, so Vonga does mean drop net or something, and I'm down to just put a little word gloss drop.net.
More of a placeholder, yep.
Yeah, and normally we don't like to put the dot there, but since we really know what's going on, and I think it's one meaning.
Works for me.
I'm tempted to put it there. Now, Kaja, what do you think Kaja is?
So, but on the net, found the weights were lying there ashore in opera. Betoko, and finally, the shore, its nets. Do we have a word shore? Would that be it? We get it again in the form kanjandi.
But you notice ashore is in parentheses, so I bet that something
that's right.
Understood contextually to Ghanongga speakers, but wouldn't be.
You are so right. That is the custom for this kind of thing. To make it more intelligible to an English audience, not local.
Yeah, and
I need to supply these little words.
And as we recall from reading the little beginning, this really isn't necessarily intended for an English-speaking audience.
All right, it's going to be the weights then.
I believe it's weight. Because
kanjandi will get in the form weighted. That would be it. Weight, noun, and verb, it seems.
Yeah. I believe weight is what's going on. And I believe weight is a noun in both cases here.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. With the article before it and the plural possessive. Just the English diverges a bit. They weighted the net by tying it around their legs.
Kole and dia kind of looks like dia is indexing a subject, but I believe it's actually like some sort of like I hypothesize now this is actually some sort of anaphor is the function it's serving. So it's possessive, it's there. Like
H-E-I-R.
Doesn't make as much sense in English because the way our word order is, like, it won't sound as good, but like this is they ate the pizza. theirs, meaning their pizza, right? It's kind of that kind of thing going on, where the they is co-indexed with them or theirs. And so there you get kanja. So the weight, there, no, we've got there, THERE in nana. And then the net. So then the weights were lying there and not brought. But captured.
By the way, in the very first story, first couple sentences, the first verb we analyzed had the form colendia, if I recall.
Yes,
single.
That's right. It's the same. I believe it's the same structure. It's just that our first story, it was written as one word, and here it's written as two words. And we originally said dia was a suffix, and we have since changed that, right?
I'm not sure about that, but sounds plausible, so I can plause that.
You've been plaused.
Yeah. Eminently plausible.
Even changed in our lexicon to not be a.
Yeah,
what we see is that when it's a suffix, it's ndi. And when it's a freestanding word, it's dia.
That also sounded good.
Really helpful for us. I think kaja is weights, but I want to enter it in a way that we don't get confused that it's weight. How much does something weigh? This is stone for the purpose of weighing something down.
Weight stone?
I mean, presumably a stone. But yeah, I guess that might be a good way for us to think about it. Presumably a stone. We could call it fishing weight or something like that.
Net weight. Net weight. That's a nice ambiguous term. Net as opposed to gross.
Yeah.
Net weight.
I'm going to put fishing weight to make it as easy for us in the future. What
Works for me. Yep.
Okay. And then when we get kajandi, boom, there we go. And we're going to call it fishing weights. No, because it would be. I'm still going to call it fishing weight. It's just for the sake of, but the D indicates that's plurally possessed. We're not going to indicate that on our word. Now we have one more word that in here, two more that are likely plurally possessed. We have piluaindi. So this piluaindi, this sequence of u, a, e, is a rare three consecutive vowels. We don't see that a lot.
Yep, we do had what we do had. I found one of IU, Vayu, from the first text, another 3-vowel sequence, but they're quite rare.
They're quite rare, so this is a neat word.
Yeah.
And I suspect that the 3 vowels are not created through affixation. They're really part of this word. What do you think it means?
D is a suffix. I mean, we've got a D, 2 words following, nenindi.
Yeah, ndi is suffix, and I know what nenindi means. Do you have an idea?
Let's just take a look. Fishing weights. So they weighted the net. We've got to have a word for legs in there. And a word for tying round. So they, okay, I think the one we're on, piluaindi, is going to be the verb tying round, because pa would make sense as a preposition. Nenindi would be their legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recognize nene from Roviana.
Nice.
So that was a good one for me. And if I recall correctly, it can mean leg or foot. So we'll pull up our Roviana dictionary and take a look. Not that we're going to necessarily adopt it, but just to know. Nene, paw. Now, kuru means animal in Roviana, so that's just foot animal.
Foot animal.
Kuru is kind of like, yeah, I'd say animal, because kuru tapuru, remember tapuru means fly. So kuru tapuru is bird. Although my understanding is that when kuru is said by itself, or kuru, it generally is interpreted to mean bird.
Cool.
So sole of foot, ola nene. Toe, kakorutu nene. My father, tamangu, nenena, his leg. So I suspected foot is the best gloss, but there's a bit of an extension. I mean, leg is the best gloss. That's what we just saw, right? Yeah, but there's a bit of an ashi thing going on. So in Japanese, ashi can mean kind of foot or leg, right?
Yes, there's no distinction. Same for the arm. Hand and arm are the same word.
Now look, we've got karusu here for leg too.
Aha, which we saw in the first text for the
So
crab
what
leg.
happened?
So that could be an animal leg or like a crustacean's leg or something. Or they're totally interchangeable.
I have a suspicion that karusu is animal leg and that nene is human leg.
Yeah.
We can't back this up right now, so I'm going to leave it as
Yeah.
both of them as leg.
We could put it in our notes field for those entries.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to nene. Oh, I said it Portuguese style because nene is baby in Portuguese. And babies often call themselves baby.
Babies often call themselves baby.
I guess if you talk to them that way. And my kid certainly refers to himself as nene sometimes, particularly when he's upset. Notes. Nene maybe for human leg. And our other word was karusu. Look, it's literally right above. Oh, well, it's right above it because we've got it organized by gloss. Karusu maybe for animal leg or crab leg, since that's what it comes from. And you might say, why would they have a special word for crab leg? And I would turn to you and say, why don't you have a special word for crab leg?
Special word for pincer. Body parts that humans don't have. Paw as opposed to hand.
Well, paws probably aren't as salient in the environment of Western Solomons. There are some pod animals, meaning they don't have human hands and feet, like I think there's possum type stuff, but the majority of the animals, of course, will be like birds and crustacean type stuff. So I failed to discover a macro category for crabs in Roviana.
In the language.
Yeah, I failed to discover a macro category. Every crab that I encountered had its own name, and it wasn't like that's a type of crab. That doesn't mean they don't have a macro category. So I said I failed to discover it. But I tried hard, so I suspect there might not be.
There might
This
not be.
turns out, what's that?
Yeah, there might not be. That wouldn't surprise me.
It's probably because they're super knowledgeable about animals, but maybe not the way that I'm thinking. My understanding is that in evolution, crab is not a macro species either. It's an emergent design. It comes out of a bunch of different places. They're not really united by a common ancestry. It's just a common response to environmental pressures. And I like to imagine that this is the reason that Roviana did this, but maybe maybe not. When we get to Piluaindi, we do get to a problem of something must be tying it, but not that clear. So the legs. But Piluaindi seems to be a noun, a nominalization, or this is puzzling. However, that said, the first speaker used Ria exclusively for objects, right?
I don't recall.
Well, that's what I recall. And when we got to this one, that's why we have the gloss them for Ria right there. Because it was originally used only for objects, but then this guy uses them for the speaker, uses them quite a bit for subjects. So it makes me wonder if he's using D as an object agreement again. So I don't know. I'm going to leave it the way it is, and I am tempted to analyze Piluai as tie or bind or something like that.
Very good.
I think I'm going to call it bind instead of tie because tie is kind of a bit. I mean, I know we don't think suit and tie or they're running a foot race and have a tie, but just in case, I'm going to call it bind. What do you think?
Works for me.
Okay. All right, La Meria. The Dolphins, so they wouldn't put the net down, but the Dolphins came and threw themselves into the net and carried it, so they were all killed who were fishing for the dolphin with the net. The dolphins got the better of them.
Probably better at swimming than a human would be staying on deck if a dolphin were pulling you, or just in the boat. I don't know about deck. Dolphins came.
What
Okay,
this?
the dolphins, so that, go ahead.
The here. Now we're on page. I'm going to try to find this and make sure it really says this in the text, because this is not what I expected.
The there's, oh, that single syllable that's good. Yeah. Two. Do you have the page? Yeah, that'll be, oh, if you just click left in the spreadsheet, it'll tell you what page number.
I'm in there.
Alrighty.
Dolphins threw it away. It is a typo.
Thank you. Okay, let's update. Or can you update the spreadsheet there?
So it's Koa Zagona.
That makes sense. All right, baseline. Oh, click left or right with your keyboard keys. Oh, let's go back. Oh no, it's all gone. Right, we're in
Okay, I'll
paragraph
just
10.
go to the last one. I see by the free translation where we stopped.
Yeah, that's right. Paragraph 10. Click on a word and then go back to the baseline. There you go. And now just there, you can see it's highlighted. Za. Good eye. So it's very important as a linguist, as a scholar of language, to sort of develop your intuitions about what things occur in your language, what things don't. To sort of develop.
I recognized it because I knew that. I knew what Gono was from Roviana. So I said, I mean, it seems very likely it's the same word in this context. It's another one they share. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna be able to get that meaning though without cheating. So we're gonna search for Gono. We get one example. So nope, probably not gonna solve this word, or we can come up with something. What did I just do? Oh, I switched. Okay, so we got La Maria, come them, the dolphin.
Oh, did you?
This na is used in some interesting ways.
Nah.
Because we might expect it come rim ria if it was dolphins, it would be plural, but ria na tovu tovu is, I believe, one noun phrase.
Those the dolphins.
Noun phrase within a noun phrase. Something like that. So it and carried it, so they were all killed who were fishing for dolphins in the net. You know, I wonder about this. Remember that we solved things that looked like they were future were actually irrealis?
I do recall.
I wonder if when we get this pre-verbal subject agreement, if they're all realis.
Okay.
So this might be third singular realis. That's why we get it here instead of other places.
So for observations like this, if you, where the cursor is now in Flex, if you were to hit Control N, there's a really useful feature that I made a lot of use of in my work on Flex. That opens up a note field.
It did not.
Okay. I wonder if that's.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Move my cursor.
Right. So these stray observations, I think it's real useful and important to just jot them down when they come to you. I forget all kinds of things all day long. So unless I write things down, a lot of those ideas will just be gone. I can't ever find them again. Here's a good way to find them. I believe you can search your note field later on. If it gets to be too much, you can hide the note fields. But what I would do is make note of the hypothesis you were just describing.
Well, I do want to make a note, but I'd rather make a note in the lexical entry in this case.
Okay. Also a possibility.
But it is cool to know about the notes feature, and it would be hard to say that it's. Oh, I see what I did here. I could actually go to analyze, click on the entry, and then go to that'll take me to words. I do think the notes function there is very useful, particularly if you're like, the better translation might be this, or this might be.
Yep.
But
No things that are rare, exceptional, or unexpected.
This occurs so much in the store. We've got to put it right in the entry. And I'm going to say, what if za is realis? So how do you think you spell realis?
1L.
What if za is realis?
Za.
What I should say is irrealis za is realis. Because irrealis is kind of a what if thing. Okay, so that was a pretty bad joke.
If it turns out to be true and we name this thing after you, we could call it the pizza.
All right. Any guess on Gona, Pogozo, or Aria?
So they came and threw themselves into the net. I think Gona is going to be the verb of throwing themselves, hurling themselves, like throwing, using their full weight, full force to propel the nets.
I agree with you.
They're smashing those nets.
So
yeah,
now we'll look at what it means in Roviana. I think Tyler did a very good job. To shoot.
Shoot. They're shooting their body.
You said throw yourself with full force. Now here they have fire the gun.
Yeah.
Yet we also see that this word is cognate between Ghanongga and Roviana. So probably it's older than guns got to the area. Here they have it as shoot the arrow, and there they have Gonaia Samboko. Boko is pig, Proto-Oceanic Borok.
Wow, cool.
And Gonaia, you recognize the Ia, and you know why Aia happens now too.
Makes good sense. Quick question on the Boko from Borok. Was that metathesis or just loss of the R?
Loss of the R, the O's coalesced, and another O is inserted as echo vowel.
Very nice.
If you only saw the one thing, it'd be easier to say there was, but if you've seen this move enough times.
Yeah.
Check this out. Rimata sun, re meaning coming from, I believe, the word for day, and mata meaning eye. So mata is sun.
That day word, is it langit or something else?
Langit, Proto-Oceanic langit means sky.
Sky, okay.
I don't remember the etymology here, and we can get into it, but it'll be a bit of a digression. I just believe this is an eye of the day thing right there, since we were talking about it. I have to double check that for sure. And I think it was like a fossilization, so it doesn't make. In any case, cool that our Gona is right there. Sunbeam, thing that is shooting from the sun. So it gives us that this is kind of a term more like throwing full force. I'm going to go ahead and analyze Gona as throw for now.
Okay. Want to do propel, something like that? They propel their bodies. It's not quite what they do.
Well, notice that they use it for pelting stones and arrows. So it is kind of a throw, propel, shoot. I like all of those. I like propel. Let's do propel. Now let's do throw, because that's what it says right here in the.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is I'm going to click on the word. We're going to go to the entry. I'm going to say throw, propel, shoot, compare to Roviana Gona. And then that will be enough for us. Now for a professional dictionary, that's not an acceptable way to do things. But probably you have to do things like this to get to professional dictionary level. Now we're missing Pogozo, and Pogozo.
Cool.
Ooh, what were you gonna say?
You don't see. I don't think I've seen many Z's in that position in a word. Seems like the first time as the final consonant. The last one. It's not a final, but last consonant word. Just a stray observation. What do you see?
Yeah, it appears to be an echo vowel. I'm wondering if we can find any place where I'm wondering if there's any correlation between stress and where voice velar fricative occurs in the word. But
that'd be fun. Yeah.
We can't know that really until we meet a speaker and they
That's right. Yeah.
But-
Hard from a written text, hard to know where the stress is. I mean, in some writing systems, you could mark a stress, but it's not.
Well, and I bet that the stress is often penultimate because it's Austronesian, it's Oceanic, it's related to Roviana. What I'm noticing Roviana is that can be irregular too. So we don't know. What do you think Pogozo is?
All right, it's throwing. Oh, let's see. Oh, we get to the carrying part. That's gonna, yeah,
Only in there once.
carry them. This could also be a propel. I mean, it's propelling them, but carrying, something like that. Carrying the people.
Well,
Oh,
I could even be drag.
drag, yeah, it's good.
Carry,
Drag them so
drag.
they were filled. Kimbangara ria, yeah, uke, uke betondi.
So dead completely them. So they're dead completely.
Aria. Here we get an A on it. Is ria the same as aria, do you think? Is it a spell? Is it a typo? You get multiple.
Adia? I doubt it's a typo. I'll look.
All right.
So I recognize the word from Roviana, but the meaning here, I believe, is very different than what happens in Roviana. No, although it looks like something like those here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It killed them completely. Those they netted the dolphins.
The ones who.
The ones who, yeah.
It's like a relative clause.
It looks like a relative clause marker to me.
And it has a resumptive, it has a subject pronoun in it too. The ones who they netted the dolphins.
Yeah,
The ones who were the ones to net them.
I wonder if it's completely unrelated to Roviana here.
Mm.
Notice how they aren't really telling you. To burn scars on the arm, as is often done by young boys. Huh. Aria, an interjection, a call to action. Aria, mandagani gani. Oria. Now they don't tell us what this means helpfully.
You'll just know.
You'll know it when you see it. And they don't give us any other. They don't give us any other thing here. So I believe it means something very different in Roviana than Ghanongga. Aria kind of means like let's go in Roviana, but it could have meant something else at one time. In Roviana, the third person singular pronoun is asa. When it is ergative, it is sa, by the way. So we get za all over the place here. Who knows if that's ergative? We haven't really figured it out yet. Doesn't look very ergative here when there's no object agreement, but in any case. Oh, it's probably not object agreement. Obviously reason. Because it's like I look at you, I walk to the park. It's one of those intransitive that takes a
oblique
complement, so it's not a true object. So that's why there's no object agreement. I doubt that adia means let's go here. But in Roviana, you can use asa for like great, and it means like that's it. So they're teaching me something, I do it right there. Asa. Like that's it. That's the way to do it. That's awesome. But it also just means it, she, he, etc. So adia could have meant something else and then become an interjection. Roviana is what I'm saying. What it means here, it would be very hard to put anything but those who.
Yeah. Those who they netted them, the dolphins. How cool. All right, so Polozo is still outstanding to be analyzed or glossed or something.
Yeah. Carried, pulled, dragged. I'm going to go ahead and gloss it as carry because that's what we have in the story. We need to move forward. What I'm going to do is I'm holding control. I'm going to click on the entry and I'm going to put carry, pull, drag as the dolphins in this pulled the netters in the Maluku.
They carry, yeah, they're pulling one net worth of Malukus.
What's your net worth? One Maluku?
Yeah.
Okay, so Adia, I'm tempted to call it those.who or those which or something like that for now. But with a huge pin in this. And I'm almost tempted to just give it a word gloss and not a
analysis, an entry.
Those.which. And I'm going to leave it at that. So we have something. Okay, now so Zagwa, Maka, Vavakatondiria.
Vavakato is the story, the telling. Their story. That was the story of them. Something like that.
That was one of their stories.
One. Thank you, Maka. Yeah, that was one of their stories. Seems to be left untranslated. Could be just an omission or an error or intentional. But this is our first chance that we get to translate one for ourselves, which is kind of exciting. We know Flex, we know all the words. Might want to, yeah, the O and the R there in stories.
Okay. Doctor of language, so I don't think I misspelled it. I did, dear listener. Okay.
Happens to the best of us.
That was one of their stories. I'm going to put this all in square brackets.
Right. We want to always be honest and accurate. This is what we supplied. So that was one of their stories. He said it, one story of them. One of their stories, them.
Let's actually do it that way.
Why not?
I'm actually going to go ahead and put it in
standard English.
Yeah.
Well, if that's confusing at all, puzzling what I was just saying, that's hewing real close to the original word order, which is unlike English. But for a free translation, really what we want is something that any English user could get some sense out of by looking at.
One of the cool things is after you spend enough time working on alternate word, and Ghanongga seems to alternate a bit between SVO and VSO or VS. It seems like if a lot of the agreement is on the verb, then it's verb and then whatever thing needs to be specified, right? So like, if you know enough from the verb, you don't need to say that explicit subject. If the subject is already understood, repeated mentions, if it's the established topic, I don't need to say it. I think someone who's really into information structure would enjoy looking at this text. Or pull their hair out. I don't know how they,
Let me just before we go on, or feel free to go ahead and copy that. I think that Zagwa there that we just translated, I don't think it's really he said. I think it's quotative or resumptive. All of that was one of their stories. I don't think it's telling us somebody said something.
Yeah, I kind of don't think so either. I almost think that was like one of their stories.
It's liking, yeah. It's giving.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to?
I kind of do, yeah.
What do you want to? How do you want? Do you want to use the like, or do you want to do something a little bit?
What else could we do? What's another possibility? Yeah, just that was one of their stories.
That seems to be
what's being
the best compromise there is that was one of their stories.
So, just looking at what we have there on screen, It shows you the usefulness, what's good about flex. You can have the Zagwa, we can represent there what we think that word means on its own. But then with the free translation, we're really more concerned with what information is being conveyed. So best of both worlds, it's all being shown there. What it is word by word, but really what it's communicating is a little different from if we were to say he said. Let's go on.
Another thing was when the bonito were jumping at Angel Bangara. Now, Tyler, do you know what bonito is?
I had to look it up. It's kind of fish, and I looked it up because I wondered if it's connected to the Spanish word bonito, which it is. Right.
Bonito? That's a pretty big.
Yeah. Bonito to me means cute. They are kind of cute fish, just attractive.
It's a species associated with the tuna family, but cannot be marketed as tuna in many countries.
Uh-huh.
But bonito is a prized fish for sure.
I have many feelings. It looks really cute, but also delicious.
It looks quite like I saw a fish like this swimming in Waimea Bay once in the summer in Hawaii.
Nice.
And I saw a shoal of fish kind of, and this tuna or tuna-like creature, because I guess not everything that looks like a tuna is a tuna, but something like that was swimming it, and it was so powerful and impressive and intimidating in the water, and they're pretty big.
Yeah.
And it was just like so laser like sharp that when it would get a piece of a fish, it'd like bite through a fish, and the remnants would just drop to the ground. It didn't even care. It'd just be a chunk taken out where it was bit. And you definitely get the feeling like if it wanted to do that to me, it could do it to me too. It felt like a pit bull and I was a snail.
Yeah. Happily, I don't think pit bulls are too interested in snails generally.
The fish didn't bite me either, so it was.
It just didn't get tasty. Your scales were somewhat less appealing. So I think if I were a tuna fisher, and I saw bonito for the first time, I would say something like, "Oh, what a cute little guy! I'll call that the bonito."
I don't think they're little. I think they're big.
The bonito?
I believe they're big fish.
I see.
So when the
tuna are quite big.
This is an important. Now, again, this is me as an outsider, an extreme novice in this, but I've also read about the bonito in Roviana, and the Roviana would actually take out the war canoes when the bonito were jumping. It's like a season, a time. They know when that's going to happen, and they go out, and it's dangerous.
I gotcha.
So, that's why he's bringing up many important kind of dangerous things, basically. Netting dolphins is actually pretty dangerous, and you could die doing that. Right? Fishing the bonito, climbing the trees is pretty dangerous because you could fall. Chopping the trees is pretty dangerous.
Right.
Okay. Pondaka. Making the water swirl. Now, here we've got a problem in that we've got NC is probably na.
Naizo, yeah, Nizo.
We got the na part. We don't know Pondaka or Umoro.
Water swirl. I like that it's a single word there after the comma. Let's see. Can you go back to? We're just scroll up a little bit. Get the whole. Yeah, that'll do. Another thing. Vivendi, not their origin, just a thing worth telling. Maybe. What do you think about Vivendi here? Maka Vivendi. Mutugu. Mutugu has tu and gu altogether.
I think origin is also. He's talking about the stories. These are origin stories. These are ancient stories. So another one of their original ways or their sources or their things. I think thing is the best translation here in the free translation. Another one of their things was so at Rinju Bangara, we don't have bonito or bonito jumping. And I'm guessing that bonito jumping is one thing. Right?
Could be. Yeah. We have very few unknown words, 3 unknown forms there.
But they're about to talk about bonito, so we're going to solve
it
fairly quickly. I'm going to put in 2 more sentences.
Okay, I think I see it.
Yeah, I have an idea already. I'm gonna put in just a few more sentences right quick, actually.
What's the Roviana? I'm gonna ask an illicit question. What's the Roviana word for bonito?
Let's take a look. I do not recall, although I'm sure when I see it, I will remember it.
Guess we should say
Important
bonito.
word. Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Is there's probably a lot of words based around this because it's an important thing.
Right.
So there's a term used in bonito fishing to lift the fish out of the water with a rod. Now, it's worth mentioning, by the way, that Solomon Islands has these today, modern times, has these tuna practices where a lot of times people are trawling for tuna, meaning non-Solomon Islands fishing fleets are typically trawling. They're dragging giant nets and pulling things out. And one of the things that happens is that tuna, they die in the water. When they die in the water, they don't taste good anymore. And if your tuna that you're going to eat is next to one that's dying in the water, your tuna will be upset and therefore not taste as well either.
Wow.
They taste the best when they die on land instantly, or they die out of water instantly. And in Solomon Islands, they are not trawling for tuna. They have a bunch of people fishing on the front of these big boats with rods. And when they catch them, they whip them back on the deck and they die from slamming into the deck.
Wow.
And I've tried every kind of canned tuna in the Solomon Islands. And it's one of the things I look forward to the most about going to Solomon Islands. I do not enjoy canned tuna here in Texas very much. But once in a while, I'll eat it. I'm nostalgic. But it's like it's a different food in Solomon Islands. It's extremely good. So if you are somewhere in the South Pacific and you have a chance to try a Solomon Islands brand of tuna, I highly recommend it. In any case, let's keep looking for bonito. I am not sponsored by any Solomon Islands tuna brand. I'm just letting you know about this good thing. You might not think, you probably won't even, if you're most kids that grow up here, they have a tuna salad sandwich or something and it's considered a low look. I'm telling you, if you find some of the Solomon Islands tuna, I see people post about it in New Zealand and Australia when they get a little stash. I got these 10 cans of Solomon tuna. I am going to make it last because it's very good. Now, if you're like me and you go to Solomon Islands and you eat it pretty much every day for 2 or 3 meals a day, it does lose its luster. But I mean, the first couple weeks, you just gotta eat it, eat it, eat it. It's really good. So their Volusu is bonito fishing. Striking the water. So we're looking for bonito. Makasi is the word.
Oh my goodness. Umoro. That's what we have. The movement of a shoal.
Umoro is the movement of shoal of Makasi. So umoro is the bonito jumping.
Okay. Fabulous.
Right?
This reminds me of that Gavagai thought experiment.
Gavagai?
I forget who it was, but some philosopher of language was some form like that. He made up a situation. Suppose you're in a new setting trying to learn this language. A rabbit runs by and your informant says Gavagai. You don't know if it means rabbit or assorted rabbit parts or running of rabbit or what. So here's, it's not a single animal. It's a thing that English speakers, to my knowledge, don't have a single word for.
Yeah, so this one there will be no. I suggest we literally gloss it as bonito.jumping.
Sounds like a website.
And this is what we predicted before we even looked, was that, or we can put shoaling if we want to go more like the Roviana version.
Quine. It was the philosopher Quine who brought that up.
I'll leave it as jumping then.
Bonito jump.
All right, going back.
Translation.
So
the book is Word and Object, which I have not.
All right, so we kind of predicted a little bit before that if knowing a little bit of cultural knowledge, we knew when the bonito jumping is a specific time and that it's important. So it was going to be hard to deduce. We might have called Moro bonito, especially based on the next sentence, which has it. They started out and went to catch the swirling bonito. So now we'd say umoro is bonito, and maybe Izo or something is swirling. Which that actually kind of makes sense because it's in both sentences.
Could Izo be water? No.
Okay, with the bamboo rods, they fixed the lines and cast and cast and cast till they had finished the school of bonito.
Ravea, that's okay. Rave will be the verb. Cast a net.
We get makasi as the word for bonito in Roviana.
Okay.
Very close to the word for thank you in Sasak. Actually, let's check what it is in Indonesian right quick. In English to Indonesian. Thanks.
It's going to be.
There it says kasih. So I think there could be other versions and it's not giving it to me, and it might be a Sasak specific thing and might not be shared. And I could be wrong. But in any case, that's one that I noticed might be similar. Okay, yeah, we're having a hard time figuring out some of these words. So we get Izo again down here with jumping bonito. Not going to be easy to solve this. We might have to leave some things empty. Any guess on Pondaka?
Bonito was jumping.
I have a guess that Ravia has a third singular object.
I agree completely.
What? Catch.
Yep.
They embarked. Rave almost certainly means to catch. But I'm guessing this is
I don't think it's the throwing net thing. It's that one that's repeated there in the following.
Yeah,
they cast and cast.
But they're casting. So we might generalize something as fishing, but if it's very important in your culture, you might have specific terms for everything you do. So in Roviana, I know they use the word ringihi for like when you have hooked a fish, as with when you're casting with a rod and you're pulling back, you've hooked it, you ringihi'd it. And I suspect they have specific word for casting with a rod versus netting versus even dropping a line with and letting. So I suspect this has to do with casting. Let's see. With bamboo rods and fixed lines, they cast and cast. Yes, now we get ravia, 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 them. So rave is cast.
Cast a net. Cast a net. I like the instrument.
I think we should call it, oh, geez. Cast.fishing rod or something like that.
Well, oh, if you have a rod, is that what that action's called? Casting?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case. By the way, that's one. That verb, that English verb cast, is something like to throw, to launch your fishing implement. And it has a more modern meaning of trying to find actors for a play or some movie production.
Yeah.
And that's one that whose inflection class is changing. The older sense cast is it has a homophonous preterite and participle. They're all cast, like hit.
Yes. But I casted this person. Yes, right.
People are making it regular for that sense. I was cast. To me, it also should have the same preterite participle, but I'm hearing it. It's around. It's bubbling up. We're getting a new inflection on that verb.
Best actor was Caston.
Caston. I had not heard that one until now.
All right. How should we call rave? It is clearly a fishing word, but I believe it is casting with a rod.
We could just say cast here. I think could be enough. I don't have a clear enough concept of exactly what tools they're using and what they're doing.
I think cast fishing rod will be more helpful to us because we're going to find that they cast nets. They cast this and that. So,
isn't it nets here? We had nets earlier on.
It is. Well, again, I'm maybe cheating. I know how I just told you how they fish the bonito, and I know that this cast with rod, they have specific words all for it in Roviana. Although different words. Let's look and see if they have rave in Roviana. No. Rough of board. No, they have it once. rough of sea. So we don't get Rabe. Huh. Let's see if we get cast. We get it 11 times. Samburu, to throw or cast with a fishing rod. Now they also have Sasa, I also hear used for fishing too. So this is a game in which a kind of dart is cast with rod and line to strike a soft article. Cast, several men would cast. There we go. Check this out. Valusu, or bonito fishing, was probably next to raiding the favored occupation of the Roviana men. Much ceremonial. Oop, a little typo there. Much ceremonial was associated with the preparations, the actual fishing, and the return and distribution of the spoils. The makasi, bonito, was trolled for when the canoes, from canoes with gaili drawn along the surface. The line was made from bark of pusi, which in the modern day means cat. So I think from pussycat. So
okay.
I think that is a tree name.
Bark,
and the rod of Sasamburu, makasi, was bamboo. So they had a bamboo fishing rod. Drifted amongst a shoal of bonito, umoro. Several men would cast for the fish. Large hauls of 60, 100 fish were not uncommon. A system of signals by conch shell and splashing of paddles notified people ashore of result of the trip. The idiom repereperai samakasi, referring to the supposed appearance on every second day of the makasi, seemed to indicate a connection between Valusu and the Malay lusa, day after tomorrow. Lamana Valusu, Lamana meaning deep water, Lamana Vulusana, fishing grounds for bonito, see Gaili Imasa, blah, 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 blah. So we've learned a little bit about this thing, and it makes sense. So they are dragging some line between them, not to catch the fish. They are casting. They just whip the fish into a frenzy all in one area and then cast away.
Cast away.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this might literally be cast fishing rod for bonito. It might be extremely specific. I'm going to leave it like this, and then I'm going to go to my dictionary entry, and I'm going to say, definition. Cast a fishing rod as when fishing a shoal. Does shoal have an E after it?
No, it's SHOAL.
Okay, I've got it. All right, now Zana. Tokaria. They started out and went to catch the swirling. Toka might be start. We've already got Pondalai, I believe, as start.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Toka, again, looks like a Roviana word, but the meaning is very different then. We'll look for it in Roviana so you can see on the screen. Toka. Oh, they've got Toka for depart here. Very interesting. So Toka also means to help or assist or set out on a voyage. I'm guessing in this case it means set out on a voyage. It basically also means embark. Right?
Seems like.
And that's what it seems to be meaning here. So I'm going to create a new entry of literally another embark. What do you think?
A literal embark, yeah.
So I don't know how to really tell these two completely apart yet. So I'm just going to leave them as.
That'll happen, yeah.
And then we just have Zana and Izo. And Izo is a bit puzzling. We don't know what Hondaka, excuse me, Izo means. Zana, I feel, is some sort of particle. It's like a this or that type thing.
Mhm.
So does umoro contain making the water swirl? I don't know. All right, looking at another sentence here, we've got a few words we can maybe guess at. Again, we've got izozana. With bamboo rods and fixed lines, so now we understand what that means. They cast and cast and cast till they had finished that school of fish.
Have we considered that Ezo is a noun, the catching? Would that fit for the preceding one? Nizo.
Doesn't make as much sense here, but it
That's
does
Nizo.
make sense overall. It's going to be hard to not say something like that.
Okay.
Okay, let's look back at our sentence. We've got another aria here. So aria catapulto caro. Now here aria looks exactly like let's. Instead of those which.
Aro, yeah. It sure does. Ta is interesting. It finished.
Ta is interesting. Let's get to the shore. Now we don't have shore there. I bet when we had Pato before. So we're going to go look at our concordance right quick. We're going to look for Pato. Is that right? Is that the word I just said we were going to look for? It is Pato. Let's search. So we get it to Pato. They'd finish. Let's go to shore. Untranslated yet, but I believe we've got it in the first story too. So a bunch of it's, yeah, so we got Pato Pato go open fire.
Yes.
Where did we get Pato as roast originally?
Parogia, when it was verbal, it was roasting the thing, cooking.
Okay, we need to go look at this entry because it looks like we have Pato as the verb.
This is going to be a different word.
Oh,
This
I
Pato.
agree with you that Pato
Oh, okay.
and Pato, but we've got a problem is that it's already filling it in as.
Because, well, it's not a problem. We saw it when we see it reduplicated. Only two syllables survive of that.
So, but
Paro, paro.
why? I do have an idea why this is doing this. So here we
Roast.
are. We go to analyze. It's giving us roast because
We've taught
Pato,
it.
because of
Yeah.
our reduplication, it's short
Yep.
for so
That's right.
we need to edit this. And what we need to do is get rid of the allomorph. Now you could say, all right, well, let's keep the allomorph.
Right. Why get rid of it?
Well, because then we're always going to have to choose when we come to Pato.
Yes, that's something you deal with.
How much information are we preserving by calling this allomorph?
All right, all right.
I guess if we get a computer we could experiment with it. If we wanted to have a computer write our description, which Flex claims to be able to do, right? So we'll look at our verbs. Yes, this isn't very helpful in my opinion. Okay, have you ever used the
Grammar sketch function, I have not.
please click the generate button.
First time I have been invoked.
Okay.
How nice. A, B, D, F, E, F, G. Okay. Particle, prefix, stem, suffix.
It's not really telling us much about Ghanongga, just that we've activated these things, so we need to describe them basically. Natural classes, what class is X in? Well, okay. Hey, there we go. Unclassified affixes. It gives us a few things.
Cool.
Unmarked stems. It gives us a few things. It's not
That's
not that useful, but still kind of
no,
impressive.
it's good to have it. Yeah, it's real convenient. It just took the click of a button to generate that sort of overview. It sorts things nicely.
It is neat. No doubt about that. It is organized some things in some neat ways.
Given us a skeleton that we could flesh out if we needed to.
So we don't know quite what pato means yet, but we're pretty sure it doesn't mean roast.
Not here, although I mean it could be let's go roast them and therefore go to shore, but I don't think so.
I don't think they're connected. I think they're unconnected.
Just happen to have
As for the ta, it says let's get to the shore. And then we'll do a few more sentences in gloss because pato comes up so much. So there we get this one. I have a feeling pato has something to do with shore, right? We already.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see it again.
We know that it comes up quite a bit.
Get to the shore. Could it mean disembark? Is it looking verby? Yeah, I think it's a verb.
Very verby.
Let's ashore.
And we never discussed this ta in ta pato. I think pato is get to shore, or pato is disembark to shore, or
yep. So,
go on shore.
By the way,
these two sentences, beto gay paro. Gay, we're now thinking is probably realis, third person plural.
Right.
Versus ta paro, let's get to shore, they said.
Fabulous. That's great.
What do you think ta is?
First plural, irrealis. Let's do it. What do you think?
I think the audio is let's, but I have a really hard time because it would be Gita. It would be first person inclusive, short for that. So that's a really good guess, actually. I had a completely different guess.
Cheers.
I guess it's a passive marker.
Interesting. Wow.
Ta is a passive prefix in Western Malay-Polynesian, and it's a passive prefix in Oceanic. It's very widespread in Austronesian. That is the passive prefix in Roviana. So,
do you know passive prefix?
So, but now you mentioned that they are saying first person plural. It'd be very hard to deny that ta could be the first person plural. It would make a lot of sense in its position. So, this is actually why one of the strengths, I think, of our collaboration here is that I'm almost indoctrinated in the way I look at things because I expect it to be certain Austronesian things. I felt when I first started studying Roviana, and I wasn't that knowledgeable about Austronesian, but I was mostly just a Roviana studier, that I sometimes was able to notice things that other people very knowledgeable about the related languages wouldn't notice because they expect it to work a certain way.
Right.
So there's a bit of advantage to both things. All right, so I think we're gonna have to leave. Our time is pretty much up. I think we're gonna have to leave pato as something we discover on a future episode.
Let me mention one English word to compare, and that is arrive. Do you know the etymology of arrive?
No, I don't.
There's a Latin noun ripa for the shore, and the R part is an assimilated ad. It means to shore.
To shore. So it quite literally is arrive.
I think this is it, yeah. Arrive in the etymology sense. Let us to shore.
Let's go ahead and gloss pato then, or create a new entry.
Yeah, a new pato. No, the third arrow, and we'll say, yeah, you got it. And just make sure that it doesn't have a G in it. It'll go away. That's an entry.
Okay, yeah.
So never mind that. But just make sure this doesn't have a G and it does not. Yeah, arrive or to shore or something.
I'm gonna put to.shore.
Let's to shore.
Let's to shore. That was right what came to my mind. I was like, this is old-timey sounding. Sure. Create.
Perfectly sufficient. Let us is a verb phrase. Let us to shore. A little bit unusual for modern English ears, perhaps.
Let's see if that fixes it for the rest of us.
And do we want to go ahead and create an entry for ta? I'm sure we'll remember it next time.
Why is it not giving us the new?
Oh, you got to click the arrow. Go to 11.5. That'll probably do it too, yeah. and just click that arrow next. Wow, yeah, that is okay. That's no bueno. It just needs a refresh or something. It needs to learn that word.
It needs
and
to learn that it's to shore, not a very. This is the problem I was worried about here.
Right.
We're gonna
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to fix every single one.
That's okay. It'll take a couple seconds. Don't sweat it.
Don't waste your life with a couple seconds fixing Pato every time you see it.
We can remove. Well, I don't know if we want to remove it.
I'm joking. It's okay for me to leave it for now. And we'll deal with it a little more on the next one. We'll just have to keep it in mind. There, it's starting to recognize it. It's starting to figure it out. Okay.
Right, because it needs to think about it. You have to go from tab to tab for it to reprocess what it's seeing. Because it had only learned the one meaning for it before. Yeah, let's end it.
Well, and that for today, Beitoko. And finally, Beitoko. We're done for the day, and please join us on the next episode where we will keep working on the story and eventually work on the next story. And we're going to work on all the stories. We're going to get to the bottom of this as best as we can.
Right.
All right. Ciao.